Today, we're going to talk about one of history's great, dramatic reversals of fortune, the story of the Mughal Empire. I mean, at its peak, this was a global superpower, just overflowing with wealth and culture. But then, in just a few short decades, the whole thing came crashing down. So what on earth happened?
And that's really the heart of the question, isn't it? We're focusing on one man, the Emperor Aurangzeb. He was in charge of a state that controlled a quarter of the entire world's economy. And yet, he's the one who oversaw its total ruin. So how does an empire that rich, that powerful, just come undone? Well, it's an incredible story of ambition, endless war, and some really fatal decisions.
To really get a sense of the scale we're talking about, just look at this number. Around the year 1700, at its absolute height, the Mughal Empire ruled over 158.4 million people. That's nearly a quarter of the entire global population back then. This thing wasn't just an empire, it was practically a world in itself.
And before things went south, this world was absolutely thriving. Under emperors like Shah Jahan, who was Aurangzeb's father, it was a true golden age. You had masterpieces like the Taj Mahal being built. The economy was booming, churning out a quarter of the world's industrial goods, especially textiles that everybody wanted. For the most part, it was peaceful, which meant art and culture could really flourish. This is the powerhouse that Aurangzeb was handed.
But that handover, it was anything but peaceful. In 1658, Aurangzeb's father, Shah Jahan, got sick. Instead of waiting, Aurangzeb just seized the throne in a really brutal power play. He defeated and killed his own brother, and then he imprisoned his own father, who had actually recovered, for the rest of his life. Yeah, this violent start really set the tone for a dramatic 49-year reign that would change everything.
And this new leadership brought a complete U-turn in imperial policy. You see, previous emperors like Akbar the Great had built this massive empire on a foundation of inclusion and religious tolerance. Aurangzeb, he threw that playbook out. He took a hard turn towards religious orthodoxy. He brought back the jizya, a special tax just for non-Muslims, and even ordered the execution of religious leaders like the Sikh guru Tegh Bahadur. This move alienated huge parts of his very diverse population, and you guessed it, sowed the seeds of rebellion.
And that rebellion found its fiercest voice in a single conflict that would come to define Aurangzeb's rule and just completely drain his empire, the Great Deccan War. This quote from the history books really says it all. The war wasn't some quick victory. It was a prolonged conflict, and its effect, nothing short of ruinous. This one decades-long military campaign became the black hole that just swallowed up all of the Mughal Empire's money, manpower, and stability. For 27 years, let that sink in, Aurangzeb personally led his armies down in the Deccan, the southern part of India. The emperor himself was away from his capital city for nearly 3 decades, completely obsessed with this one military goal. His entire focus and all the vast wealth of the empire was just funneled south into this grinding, endless war.
But the war in the Deccan wasn't happening in a vacuum. While the emperor's gaze was fixed firmly on the south, fires of rebellion were starting to pop up all over the rest of the empire. You see, this long war created a power vacuum everywhere else. The Marathas, his main enemy in the south, became absolute masters of guerrilla warfare under their brilliant leader Shivaji, tying down the huge Mughal army. At the same time, up in the north, the execution of their guru pushed the Sikh community to become a military force. Other groups like the Jats rose up in revolt too. And with the emperor gone for decades, local governors and nobles just lost faith in the central government and started trying to grab power for themselves. The whole empire was fracturing from the inside.
So, what was the final bill for all of this? The end result was nothing less than the complete collapse of the imperial system that had held India together for centuries. The drop in stability was just staggering. With the emperor away from the capital for so long, the government basically broke down. His attention was on the war, so the complex administration that ran the empire just fell apart. Local officials lost confidence, started cutting their own deals, and as you can see, stability just went off a cliff. By the time Aurangzeb died in 1707, the empire was completely hollowed out. The treasury was empty. Some estimates say the Deccan Wars cost a fortune, causing imperial revenue to just plummet. The once unstoppable military was exhausted and demoralized from fighting these endless wars, and the central government was in total chaos. Every single pillar of the empire was crumbling. And here is the great, mind-bending irony of it all. In his quest for absolute control, Aurangzeb actually expanded the Mughal Empire to its biggest physical size ever. But in the process of doing that, he destroyed the financial and political foundations that made the whole thing work. He won the map, but he lost the empire.
And after Aurangzeb died, the collapse wasn't slow or gradual. Oh no, it was sudden, it was messy, and it was total. His death immediately kicked off bloody civil wars between his sons for the throne. The decade after that was pure chaos. I mean, get this, in the single year of 1719, 4 different emperors were put on the throne only to be kicked off right away. By 1720, the central government was gone, shattered beyond repair, and powerful provinces like Bengal and Hyderabad just became their own independent kingdoms.
So, the great stabilizing force in South Asia for nearly 200 years was just gone. This wasn't just a dynasty falling, it was an entire political order collapsing, creating this massive power vacuum across the whole Indian subcontinent. And as we know, nature abhors a vacuum.
Which brings us to the final critical question. With the mighty Mughals out of the picture, who would rise up to take their place? The answer to that question would shape the next 200 years of South Asian history, as new local powers and ambitious European trading companies, like the British East India Company, saw their chance to step right into that void.